Okay, let's unpack this. The digital landscape, well, as you know, it's just relentless, isn't it? It's not just evolving. It feels like it's accelerating almost daily.
Oh, absolutely.
And enterprises are definitely feeling that pressure. Uh, this intense need to adapt, to pivot, to deliver value faster and faster.
Yeah, sticking to the old ways, the traditional ways of working, well, it doesn't cut it anymore in this kind of environment.
Not at all.
The market moves so incredibly fast. Organizations really need to be built for responsiveness. That's the key.
Responsiveness, right?
That ability to react quickly,
Wow.
incorporate feedback, deliver incrementally. That's what the enterprise agility is supposed to be all about.
Yeah.
But even established agile teams, they're looking for ways to push things further, right? To become even more efficient, maybe get more insightful.
And that is exactly where your source material for this deep dive comes in.
Yeah.
You've brought us this really interesting exploration titled AI and Agile, Transforming Enterprise Agility.
That's the one.
It gets right to the heart of it, this intersection of artificial intelligence and enterprise agility, exploring how these two really powerful forces are starting to combine.
Yes, and our mission here with this deep dive, and it's custom tailored for you, based entirely on this material you provided, is to really pull out the most important nuggets, the key knowledge. We're not just, summarizing. We're looking for those core insights that can genuinely inform your understanding, your approach.
So the big question, why is this specific topic so relevant to you, the listener, right now?
Good question.
The source frames it really well up front, I think. It talks about helping organizations and, potentially your organization become fundamentally more responsive, more efficient in the face of all this accelerated change. It also mentions tackling a persistent challenge, which is bridging that gap, that sometimes difficult gap between the development teams on the ground and technical management.
Ah, yes, that alignment piece. Crucial.
Exactly. Ensuring everyone's aligned, effective. So ultimately, this exploration is presented almost like a roadmap for you to potentially enhance operational efficiency, maybe streamline workflows, and genuinely adapt to those rapid market changes we were just talking about.
It's really about unlocking that next level of agility, isn't it?
That's a great way to put it.
And that goal, well, it resonates whether you're directly involved in building the products, managing the teams, or even leading the strategic initiatives. Understanding this synergy, this interplay between AI and Agile, it's becoming pretty essential for navigating the modern enterprise.
Okay, so our approach today is, well, it's straightforward. We're going deep into this source document you gave us.
Right.
We'll start with the fundamentals of Agile itself. Got to understand the ground rules before we introduce the catalyst, right?
It makes sense. Lay the foundation.
Then we'll explore exactly how AI technologies act as that catalyst. We'll look at the specific applications the source discusses. We'll touch on the idea of real-world integration, how it actually happens, and the enabling technologies that make it possible.
And the challenges too, presumably.
Absolutely. Explore the potential pitfalls and, importantly, how the source suggests navigating them. Then we'll dig into the people side, the evolving roles of developers and management.
The human factor. Always key.
Always. And finally, we'll take a peek into the future trends that the source highlights.
So we're distilling the essence of this analysis for you, giving you a kind of structured way to absorb these, well, sometimes complex ideas.
Exactly. The source sets the stage pretty clearly. It lays out the current state of enterprise. Agility acknowledges its successes, definitely, but also points to areas where, more enhancement is needed.
It's not perfect, right?
No. And it immediately introduces AI, not just as, another tool you add to the box, but as a truly transformative force, something capable of, revolutionizing the traditional approaches to project management software development.
It highlights that having an AI strategy today isn't just, nice to have or forward thinking anymore.
Right. It's becoming
a fundamental necessity just to keep pace with the demands being placed on enterprises now.
a necessity. That's a strong word, but it feels right based on this.
The core idea presented is that AI provides capabilities that data processing, pattern recognition, automation that can significantly amplify the strengths that Agile methodologies already have.
So making organizations not just agile, but intelligently agile.
Intelligently agile. I like that. That sums it up perfectly.
Okay, so before we dive headfirst into the AI side, the source wisely takes a step back. It revisits the fundamentals of Agile methodologies.
Good place to start.
And it really stresses that having a solid grasp of these core principles isn't just, helpful background. It's absolutely crucial before you try to layer something complex like AI on top. You need that solid foundation first.
Exactly right. You can't build on shaky ground. And Agile, well, it's not just one single methodology, is it? It's really a set of values and principles.
Right, the manifesto.
Exactly, the Agile Manifesto. Things like prioritizing individuals and interactions over processes and tools, focusing on working software over exhaustive documentation, collaborating with customers instead of rigid contract negotiation, and critically, responding to change over blindly following a plan.
And frameworks like Scrum and Kanban, those are the ways organizations actually put these principles into practice.
They're certainly two of the most popular ways, yes. And the source specifically calls out Scrum and Kanban as key examples.
Okay, so how does the source explain the connection? How do these frameworks like Scrum and Kanban actually promote those core Agile values, collaboration, flexibility?
Well, take Scrum, for instance. Its whole structure is kind of built around promoting collaboration. You have small cross-functional teams. You have short development cycles called sprints, usually 2 to 4 weeks. You've got the daily stand-ups, those quick 15-minute meetings to ensure constant communication, see what everyone's doing, identify blockers.
Yeah, daily sync.
Right. And then regular review meetings to show stakeholders what's been built, and retrospective meetings for the team to reflect on how they can improve their process. All of this is inherently designed to foster intense collaboration, both within the team and with the people outside the team, the stakeholders. It breaks down those traditional silos.
So the structure itself, the rituals, they almost force people to talk and work together closely.
Precisely. It's baked into the process. And Kanban, while it takes a different approach, it's more focused on visualizing workflow, limiting the amount of work in progress at any one time, and optimizing the flow of
A
work.
Kanban board, right.
Exactly. The board is key. But it promotes flexibility through its emphasis on continuous delivery and reacting to change as it happens. By making bottlenecks or stuck items immediately visible on that board, it allows teams to, well, swarm on issues, fix them quickly, and adapt their focus in real time based on capacity and priority.
Ah, okay. So different mechanisms, but the same goal of adaptability.
Exactly. Both frameworks, in their own distinct ways, really embody that agile spirit of adaptability and collaboration, moving away from those rigid, top-down command and control structures of the past.
I see. So they create the environment where collaboration and flexibility are sort of the natural outcomes of following the process. Okay, the source then really emphasizes something it calls the power of iteration. It goes into quite a bit of detail about the benefits of these iterative feedback loops and continuous improvement within Agile.
Yeah.
Why is this iterative nature, this cycle of building, checking, learning, so fundamental to agility?
Well, the power of iteration is essentially the power of learning quickly and reducing risk.
Learning quickly.
Instead of, the old waterfall model where you might build something massive over a year or two and only then find out if it actually meets user needs or if it has fundamental flaws.
The big reveal moment
Yeah.
that often went wrong.
Exactly. Agile breaks work down into these small, manageable cycles, sprints in Scrum, or just continuous flow in Kanban. At the end of each short cycle, you have something tangible, a potentially shippable increment of the product.
Something real to look at.
Right. And crucially, you get feedback on it. That feedback comes from customers, from stakeholders, and also internally from the development team itself during those retrospectives where they ask, how can we do this better next time?
It's like taking lots of small, quick steps and adjusting your direction after each one instead of trying one giant leap in the dark.
That's a perfect analogy. And here's the connection to AI that the source makes. This constant process of building, maybe deploying or demonstrating, gathering feedback, adapting, it generates an enormous amount of data.
Ah, data. Okay.
Think about it. You get data on how long tasks actually took versus the initial estimates, data on the types and frequency of bugs found, data on customer reactions or satisfaction from new features, even data on team communication patterns, maybe from chat logs or meeting notes, data on how smoothly work flows through the system.
So the iterative cycle itself is like a continuous data-generating machine.
Absolutely. It's not just a process for building software. It's inherently a data factory.
Got it. So the very nature of Agile being iterative, focusing on feedback, it naturally produces the fuel, the raw material that AI systems, especially machine learning, need to learn and provide useful insights.
Precisely. It creates these rich data sets that AI algorithms can then analyze to identify subtle patterns, make predictions, suggest optimizations, things humans might miss or find too time-consuming to calculate.
So it's fertile ground for AI.
Yeah, exactly. And the iterative structure also means agile teams are already accustomed to making adjustments based on new information. They're used to inspecting and adapting. This potentially makes them more receptive to integrating AI-driven suggestions into their workflow.
That makes sense. They're already in that mindset of continuous change.
It's a truly symbiotic relationship, as the source suggests. Agility creates the data for AI, and AI, in turn, can enhance the capabilities and effectiveness of agility.
Okay, that connection is really clear now. So we understand the Agile foundation, how iteration fuels the engine. Now, the source transitions, quite elegantly, I thought, into how AI specifically acts as a catalyst for enhancing these Agile practices. It's not just sitting alongside, it's actively changing things.
Yes, it moves from the what of Agile to the how AI can accelerate and, well, improve the how of doing Agile work.
It highlights a couple of key AI technologies, machine learning, or ML, and natural language processing, NLP. How does the source describe these being used specifically in the context of enterprise workflows and Agile teams?
Well, at a high level, the source implies machine learning is used primarily for finding complex patterns within those large data sets we just talked about, the ones generated by the Agile process itself.
Patterns humans might miss.
Exactly. Things may be too subtle or buried in too much noise for us to easily spot. This could be patterns linking code complexity to defect rates, or identifying sequences of tasks that consistently cause delays, or maybe even analyzing team communication metrics to flag potential collaboration issues or blockers. ML excels at learning from historical data to predict future outcomes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
ML is like the prediction engine, finding hidden connections based on past experience.
In essence, yes. And natural language processing, or NLP, comes into play when dealing with all the unstructured text and speech data that's also incredibly abundant in Agile workflows.
What kind of data is that?
Think about user stories, bug reports, comments in Jira tickets, team chat conversations, meeting transcripts, customer feedback emails, or survey responses. It's all written or spoken in natural human language.
Right, lots of text everywhere.
Exactly. NLT allows AI systems to understand, interpret, categorize, summarize, and even generate human language.
So NLP helps the AI understand the language of the project, the requirements, the feedback, the discussions.
Precisely. It allows AI to extract meaningful insights from all that communication and documentation that would otherwise require hours and hours of laborious manual reading and analysis.
Okay.
So together, ML and NLP provide powerful new lenses, new ways to view and interact with the entire Agile process and its outputs. The source then gets really practical, which is great. It details some concrete applications of these technologies within Agile frameworks. It talks about using predictive analytics for sprint forecasting. What does that actually look like in practice? How does AI analyze data to predict outcomes or forecast potential roadblocks?
Okay, so predictive analytics in this context typically uses machine learning models. These models are trained on historical data from, dozens or hundreds of previous sprints or projects within the organization.
All that data we talked about earlier. Exactly. That data includes things like the size and estimated complexity of past user stories, the actual time it took to complete similar tasks, the team's historical velocity or throughput, known dependencies between tasks, maybe even team member availability, holidays, things like that. The AI models learn the patterns from this wealth of past performance data.
It's like feeding a super smart system your entire project history, the good and the bad.
Pretty much, yeah. And based on those landed patterns, the AI can then provide data-augmented forecasts for future sprints.
How so? Give me an example.
Okay, say you add a new user story to the backlog for an upcoming sprint. The AI can analyze its characteristics, maybe its description using NLP, its estimated size, its technical components, any stated dependencies, and compare it to thousands of similar tasks completed in the past. Based on that comparison, it can provide a more data-driven estimate for how long it might take, or maybe even suggest which team members have the best track record with that type of work. Or it could look at the whole collection of stories proposed for a sprint and predict the probability of the team actually completing all of them within the sprint's time box. It could flag specific stories that have a high risk of delay based on past patterns, or identify potential bottlenecks before the sprint even kicks off.
Wow. So instead of sprint planning relying purely on gut feel, team experience, maybe some planning poker.
Which are still valuable.
Right, but this adds another layer. You're getting insights informed by a deep historical analysis of actual performance.
Exactly. And the value this predictability adds can be significant. The source stresses it doesn't replace human judgment or team discussion.
It augments it.
It augments it precisely. Sprint planning can become more accurate. Commitments made at the start of the sprint might be more reliable because they're based on data probabilities, not just hope. And importantly, teams and technical management can proactively identify and mitigate risks before they derail the sprint.
So
Well, if the AI predicts a high probability of a delay because of a tricky dependency between two stories, the team can focus on resolving that dependency right at the start, or maybe replan to tackle them differently. It helps shift teams from reactive problem solving during the sprint to more proactive risk management before it even begins.
that sounds like a huge potential benefit spotting trouble before it causes chaos.
Yeah.
Okay, the source also discusses automated reporting tools powered by AI. This feels a bit less, maybe, futuristic than predictive analytics, but potentially incredibly valuable day to day.
Yeah.
How did these tools streamline communication? Why is automating reporting so beneficial?
Yeah, you're right. It might sound less flashy, but the impacts can be massive. These automated reporting tools, often using a combination of NLP to understand task descriptions or comments and ML to aggregate and analyze the data, can pull information in real time directly from the tools teams are already using. Jira, Azure DevOps, Trello, GitHub, whatever it is. They can then automatically generate various reports. Status updates, burn down or burn up charts showing progress, velocity reports, cycle time analysis, summaries of key activities or risks identified, all without a human having to manually compile spreadsheets or create presentation slides.
So it frees up that precious time that developers or scrum masters or project managers might otherwise spend wrestling with data export and formatting.
Absolutely. Think about the collective hours saved across an organization. That time can be immediately reinvested into actual development work, into collaboration, into strategic thinking, into process improvement, much higher value activities than report generation.
Makes sense.
But it's more than just saving time, as the source points out. These tools provide insights in real time, or very close to it. You're not waiting for a weekly status report compiled on Friday afternoon that reflects the state of things on Thursday, which is already out of date by the time anyone reads it Monday morning.
Right, the lag is gone.
You can see the current state of the sprint, the project's overall progress, key performance metrics, potential bottlenecks flagged by the AI whenever you need to see them.
And that instantaneous, transparent view must be crucial for agility, where information needs to flow freely and quickly for good decisions.
Precisely. The source emphasizes that it dramatically improves transparency across the team members themselves, with product owners, with technical management, even with wider stakeholders. Everyone is looking at the same up-to-the-minute data, ideally. This reduces confusion, minimizes misinterpretations, improves decision-making speed and quality, and ultimately helps build trust. It helps bridge that information gap that can sometimes exist between the people doing the work and the people managing the work.
Okay, so just to wrap up this section on AI as a catalyst, how do these applications, using ML for predictive analytics, using NLP and ML for automated reporting, how do they fundamentally change or improve traditional Agile practices? How do they accelerate things and provide deeper insights, as your source suggests?
Well, they essentially give Agile teams superpowers, if you like. Traditional Agile, while powerful, relies heavily on human capabilities for estimation, pattern recognition, communication, and reporting. These are all subject to human limitations, biases, and the sheer time it takes to do them.
Right. We can only process so much.
Exactly. AI takes the sheer volume and complexity of data generated by Agile work and performs analyses and automation at a scale and speed that are simply beyond human capacity. This leads to, as we discussed, potentially significantly more accurate planning and forecasting via predictive analytics. It frees up valuable human time and improves transparency through automated reporting. And beyond that, AI can uncover deeper insights from the workflow data itself, identifying hidden inefficiencies, systemic bottlenecks, or opportunities for process improvement that might not be obvious otherwise.
So it accelerates the core loops of Agile.
It accelerates the feedback loops, yes, and the decision-making processes that are right at the heart of agility. It aims to make the entire system more responsive, more informed, and ultimately more intelligent.
It really does sound like taking the core principles of Agile inspect and adapt, transparency, collaboration, and giving them a massive technological upgrade.
That's an excellent way to put it. It's like augmented agility.
Okay, moving from the what and why to the how. The source then talks about real-world integration and the technologies that enable it. It mentions the existence of compelling case studies, examples of organizations that have successfully integrated AI into their agile workflows. Now, the source doesn't give specific company names or, detailed stories in the summary provided,
Right, it references them more generally.
but it highlights that analyzing these journeys reveals common challenges and successes. So based on everything we've just discussed about the potential here, what kinds of challenges and successes would you expect these real-world examples to illustrate?
That's a fair inference to make. On the challenge side, based on the concepts presented, you'd expect the initial hurdles to revolve around the practicalities of integration.
Like what?
Well, getting the new AI tools to work nicely with the existing Agile tool chains, Jira, GitHub, etc., ensuring data flows correctly and consistently between systems. Dealing with data quality issues because AI is garbage in, garbage out, right? If your historical data is messy or incomplete, the AI's predictions won't be reliable.
Technical plumbing, basically.
A lot of it is technical plumbing, yes. But there would also be significant human element challenges, as the source likely implies. Getting teams to actually trust and effectively use the AI suggestions, especially if they contradict intuition or experience. Adapting established workflows to incorporate AI insights. Overcoming potential resistance to change from individuals who are comfortable with the old ways.
The people part of the equation.
Absolutely. And another common hurdle would likely be defining clear success metrics for the AI integration itself. How do you definitively measure the impact of the AI on agility? Is it velocity, cycle time, predictability, accuracy? It's not always straightforward.
So it sounds like the predictable difficulties of adopting almost any significant new technology, but maybe amplified because you're integrating it so deeply into a dynamic human process like Agile.
Exactly. It's not just a technical problem to solve. The source would likely frame it as a socio-technical challenge. You have to address the technology, the process, and the people.
Okay, and on the flip side, what about the successes these case studies might show?
Well, the source implies the successes are the tangible realization of the benefits we've been discussing. Organizations likely reporting experiencing measurably improved sprint predictability, hitting their forecasts more often. A quantifiable reduction in the time spent on manual tasks like generating reports. Faster identification and resolution of workflow bottlenecks, leading to quicker delivery cycles overall. Maybe more efficient allocation of resources based on those data-driven forecasts.
Real business value, then.
Hopefully, yes. And ultimately, perhaps increase team productivity and even satisfaction because they're able to focus more on creative, high-value work and less on administrative overhead or fighting fires caused by poor planning. These case studies, even if unnamed in the summary, serve as that crucial validation proof that these AI-enhanced Agile concepts aren't just theory. They are achievable in the real world and can deliver concrete benefits.
That's definitely reassuring to hear, knowing that others have navigated this path and seen positive results, even acknowledging the difficulties involved. The source also mentions that listeners through this material will gain insights into the latest tools and platforms that facilitate this AI-enhanced Agile work. Again, it doesn't name specific products in the summary.
No, it talks about categories or types of features.
Right, but it mentions the types of features and functionalities these tools offer. What does the source highlight there? What should people look for in these platforms?
It points towards tools that really embody this integration we're discussing. It mentions features that specifically promote efficiency, things like intelligent automation of certain repetitive coding tasks, maybe AI-assisted code completion or review, or perhaps automated generation of basic documentation drafts from code or user stories.
Okay, taking away some grunt work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also talks about functionalities that support collaborative development more effectively. These might be platforms that use AI to analyze team communication patterns, maybe in Slack or Teams to suggest better ways of working together, or tools that can proactively identify potential conflicts or merge issues in code bases before they become major problems.
So helping the team work together better, aided by AI.
Right. And crucially, the source highlights the role of AI-driven analytics being embedded directly within these tools. So you're not switching to a separate AI dashboard. You're getting those predictive forecasts, the performance dashboards, the bottleneck alerts right there in the environment where the team is already doing their daily work in their project management tool or IDE.
So these aren't just standalone AI gadgets you bolt on. They're integrated platforms that bring the AI's power directly into the existing workflow.
That seems to be the key idea presented. They are the practical enablers. They make it possible for regular Agile teams to leverage AI assistance day to day without necessarily needing to become data science experts themselves. They operationalize the concepts we've been talking about.
Okay, so drawing the connection here. The existence of these real-world case studies demonstrates the feasibility and the potential benefits of integrating AI into Agile, proving it's not just a theoretical nice-to-have.
Right, it shows it can be done and it's worth doing.
And the types of tools and platforms the source mentions represent the means, the practical how, by which organizations can actually achieve that integration and start realizing those benefits.
That's the critical link the source appears to be making, yes. The examples show it's possible and valuable, and the tools show how you can practically implement it in your own context.
Now, while all this potential is really exciting, the source is also commendably realistic. It moves into discussing common pitfalls, things organizations might stumble over when trying to implement this. It's always important to know what challenges to anticipate, right?
Absolutely. Forewarned is forearmed.
So what are the specific pitfalls the source highlights when integrating AI into Agile processes?
The summary provided flags two key areas where organizations often struggle. One is around communication barriers, and the other is the risk of over-reliance on automation.
Okay, let's dig into communication barriers first. That seems a bit counterintuitive because we just talked about how automated reporting can improve communication and transparency. So why might introducing AI also create communication issues?
It does seem like a paradox, doesn't it? But it's a different kind of communication challenge that emerges. When you introduce AI-generated outputs into the team's workflow, like a predictive forecast saying the sprint is likely to fail, or an automated analysis flagging a particular process bottleneck, teams need to be able to understand what that output actually means. Ideally, how the AI arrived at that conclusion, at least at a high level, to build trust, and most importantly, how they should act on it.
Okay.
If the AI operates like a black box, just spitting out answers, or if its suggestions are simply taken at face value without any team discussion or critical evaluation, it can actually hinder the rich, human-centric communication and collaboration that is so vital to Agile.
Can you give an example?
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's say the AI predicts a specific user story will take 3 days to complete based on historical data. But an experienced developer looks at it and their gut feeling, their experience tells them, no, this looks more like 5 days because of X, Y, and Z complexities that AI might not see.
Right.
There needs to be open dialogue about why the AI made that prediction, what factors it considered, and how that conflicts with human expertise or current context. If there aren't clear guidelines or channels for discussing these AI outputs, or if people feel they can't question the machine, it can lead to confusion, mistrust, people ignoring the AI, or even conflict within the team.
So it's about the communication around the AI's output
Yeah.
and how humans interact with and interpret that information, not just the AI generating the information itself. It needs a new layer of discussion.
Exactly. It requires the team to develop the skill of interpreting AI suggestions critically, discussing their implications openly, and integrating them effectively with their own deep knowledge and experience. If that crucial dialogue isn't fostered, the AI risks becoming just another barrier or source of noise, not the helpful enabler it's intended to be.
That makes perfect sense. Okay, the other pitfall mentioned is over-reliance on automation. What's the danger there? If AI can automate tasks, isn't that always a good thing? Where does the reliance become over-reliance?
Well, automation is incredibly powerful for boosting efficiency, no doubt, but the danger of over-reliance, as the source likely points out, is multifaceted. If automation starts handling tasks like, say, suggesting code fixes, running all the tests, or even doing basic task estimation without sufficient human oversight or critical thinking applied, teams might start to lose the fundamental skills involved in those tasks themselves. They become de-skilled over time. And what happens when the AI inevitably makes a mistake or encounters a situation it wasn't trained for?
Right, AI isn't perfect.
Far from it. If the human team isn't actively engaged, isn't critically reviewing the automated outputs, isn't maintaining their own understanding, then errors can slip through. And depending on the task being automated, those errors could potentially cause significant issues: downstream bad code deployed, critical bugs missed, poor decisions made based on flawed AI analysis.
So it could lead to a gradual decrease in human expertise and create a dangerous blind spot if or when the AI goes wrong.
Precisely. Automation is a fantastic tool for handling repetitive, well-defined tasks. But in creative, complex, and often ambiguous fields like software development, human judgment, experience, intuition, and contextual understanding remain absolutely crucial. Over-reliance can lead to decreased vigilance, a reduced understanding of the underlying process, why things work, not just that they work, and a kind of brittleness in the workflow that breaks down completely if the AI system fails or provides flawed outputs in an edge case.
So you need to maintain that critical human layer.
Yes, that layer that understands the broader context, that can handle ambiguity, that sees the edge cases, and that ultimately ensures the overall health and quality of the system being built.
Okay, the source says it shares strategies to circumvent these potential setbacks, although it doesn't detail every single tip in the summary. But based on these two big pitfalls, communication barriers and over-reliance on automation, what kind of strategies would logically be recommended to navigate them effectively?
Well, to address the communication barriers, the source would likely advocate for strategies centered on transparency and training.
Makes sense.
This probably means providing thorough education to the teams, not just on how to use the AI tools, but on how they work at a conceptual level, what data they use, what their known limitations and potential biases are. It likely involves establishing clear team processes for explicitly discussing AI outputs.
Like adding it to existing meetings.
Perhaps adding a specific step in sprint planning meetings or daily stand-ups dedicated to reviewing AI predictions or insights. And maybe most importantly, it requires leadership to foster a culture of psychological safety, an environment where team members feel comfortable questioning AI outputs, challenging them, and discussing discrepancies with their own experience without fear of looking silly or resistant.
So good training, clear processes for discussion, and a culture where it's okay to question the AI.
Exactly. For tackling the over-reliance on automation pitfall, the logical strategies would revolve around maintaining robust human oversight and continuously emphasizing critical thinking skills.
How'd that look?
It could mean implementing mandatory human review stages for critical automated processes, for instance. A senior developer must review AI-generated code suggestions before merging. It definitely involves continuously training teams, not just on using the AI tools, but on how to critically evaluate their outputs and identify potential flaws or biases.
Keep the humans sharp.
Keep the humans sharp, yes. It probably also includes having clear manual fallback procedures documented and ready just in case an automated system fails unexpectedly. And it means continuously monitoring the performance and accuracy of the AI systems themselves, not just assuming they're always right, and feeding that performance data back into improving the system or adjusting how it's used.
Okay, so it's really about smart deployment, isn't it? Leveraging the AI's strength for efficiency, but actively mitigating its weaknesses and deliberately maintaining human control, expertise, and critical judgment where they are needed most.
That's the crucial balance the source almost certainly advocates for. Thinking of AI as an incredibly capable co-pilot, perhaps, but never letting it become the sole autopilot, especially in complex situations.
This leads us perfectly into what feels like a really critical section the source addresses, the people factor. Because at the end of the day, it's never just about the technology or the process changes, is it? It's fundamentally about the people doing the work and how their roles inevitably evolve.
Absolutely central. Technology is implemented by people, used by people, and impacts people.
The source discusses the changing role of developers in this new AI-focused Agile environment. And it seems clear it's moving well beyond just writing lines of code.
That's right. As AI tools become more capable of handling some of the more routine coding tasks, maybe generating boilerplate code, performing initial analyses, or even automating certain types of testing, the developer's role naturally shifts.
Shifts towards what?
Towards becoming more adept at collaborating with the AI, directing it effectively, validating its outputs critically, integrating its suggestions thoughtfully, and focusing more of their own energy on the higher level aspects. Complex problem solving, innovative system design, architectural decisions, the things that require human creativity, strategic thinking, and deep understanding.
Okay, and the source explicitly mentions some new skills developers will need to cultivate to thrive in this environment. It highlights data literacy. Why is understanding data suddenly so crucial for a developer working alongside AI?
Well, as we've established, data is the fundamental language and fuel for many of these AI systems, especially machine learning and predictive analytics. Developers working with these tools need to have at least a baseline understanding of where the data the AI is using comes from. They need to be aware of potential data quality issues, incompleteness, bias, staleness, and how those issues might skew the AI's outputs or predictions.
They need to be savvy consumers of the data.
Savvy consumers, yes, and maybe even involved in producing it, they might need to understand how data is collected and processed within their own development workflows, as they could be involved in setting up or maintaining the data pipelines that feed the AI tools. And crucially, they need to develop the ability to interpret the AI's outputs, which are often statistical, probabilistic, or pattern-based, and translate those insights into meaningful, actionable steps for the software they're building or the project they're working on.
So it's about being an informed collaborator with the AI, not just a passive recipient of its suggestions. You need to understand the language it speaks, which is data.
Exactly. You can't effectively collaborate with or leverage AI if you don't have at least a foundational understanding of the data dynamics involved. The source presents it as a necessary extension of the modern developer's toolkit.
Okay, that makes sense. The source also brings up another crucial skill, understanding AI ethics. This feels really important. Why are ethics suddenly paramount when developing and deploying AI within enterprise systems?
This is incredibly critical, and it's good the source highlights it. As AI takes on more decision-making or influential roles within the development lifecycle and potentially within the products being built, the ethical implications become huge.
What kind of ethical considerations?
Well, think about bias. AI models learn from data, and if that historical data reflects societal biases around race, gender, age, etc., the AI can perpetuate or even amplify those biases in its predictions or recommendations. This could manifest in biased task assignments, skewed performance evaluations if AI contributes, or even discriminatory behavior in AI-powered features within the final product.
Wow, okay, that's serious.
It is. Then there's transparency and explainability. Can we understand why an AI made a particular recommendation? If not, how can we trust it or hold it accountable? There are concerns about the impact of AI automation on jobs and roles within the team and the organization. And issues around data privacy and security become even more critical when dealing with the vast amounts of data needed to train effective AI.
So developers need to be thinking about fairness, accountability, transparency, potential harm.
Yes, they need to develop an ethical lens through which they view the AI tools they use and the AI systems they might help build. It's not just about can we build it, but should we build it, and how do we build it responsibly. The source rightly positions this as a non-negotiable skill for the future.
Okay, moving from the developer's role, the source then directly addresses that core goal mentioned right at the start, bridging the gap between technical management and the development teams. How can technical management actively foster an environment that's genuinely conducive to this kind of AI-enhanced agile collaboration? What's their role?
The source emphasizes that leadership plays an absolutely pivotal role here. It's not something that can just bubble up from the teams alone. Management needs to actively shape the environment.
How? What specific things does the source mention?
It highlights elements like fostering clearly defined and genuinely shared goals, promoting a culture of continuous learning for everyone involved, and ensuring robust, open communication channels are established and maintained.
Let's break those down. Why are shared goals between management and development teams so essential for successful AI adoption in Agile?
Well, imagine if a development teams get excited about implementing cutting-edge AI features because they're technically interesting, but management's primary goal for AI is simply to reduce headcount through automation. You're going to have immediate misalignment, friction, and probably resistance.
Right, different agendas.
Exactly. Shared goals mean both groups have a common understanding of the strategic objective for integrating AI. Maybe the shared goal is to accelerate time to market for new features, or to significantly improve product quality and reduce defects, or perhaps to free up developers from toil so they can focus on more innovative customer-facing work. When everyone is pulling in the same direction, understanding the collective why, the integration process becomes much smoother, decisions are more aligned, and efforts are synergistic rather than conflicting.
It aligns priorities and efforts.
Okay.
And continuous learning. You mentioned this for developers, but it sounds like the source applies it more broadly.
Absolutely. The source strongly implies, or perhaps states, that everyone involved, right up through management, needs to embrace continuous learning in this space.
Why management too?
Management needs to educate themselves sufficiently about AI's real capabilities and, just as importantly, its limitations. They need this understanding to set realistic expectations for AI initiatives, to make informed decisions about investments in tools and training, and crucially, to understand and empathize with the challenges the development teams are facing on the ground as they learn to work with these new technologies.
So they can have informed conversations and provide relevant support.
Precisely. And meanwhile, developers need to constantly update their skills in AI interaction, data literacy, AI ethics, as we discussed. The pace of change in both AI technologies and agile practices themselves demands a culture where learning isn't a one-off event, but an ongoing, expected, and valued activity at all levels of the organization.
And the last point was open communication. We touched on the risk of communication barriers earlier. How can management actively promote open communication specifically to bridge that gap between them and the dev teams in this context?
Management really sets the tone and creates the space for this. They need to actively cultivate an environment where development teams feel psychologically safe to voice concerns, to share honest feedback about how the AI tools and processes are actually working or not working, and even to challenge assumptions or AI outputs without fear of reprisal.
How do they do that practically?
It involves establishing clear, accessible feedback mechanisms, maybe dedicated channels, regular check-ins focused on the AI integration. It means management being transparent about their own vision, the reasons for the changes, and even their own challenges or uncertainties. And critically, it requires managers to actively listen, really listen to the ground truth coming from the teams who are interacting with these AI systems day in and day out. Building trust through that open two-way dialogue is absolutely fundamental to overcoming the communication barriers that AI integration can sometimes inadvertently erect.
So it really boils down to leadership creating the right culture, one of shared purpose, continuous learning, and psychological safety, and providing the necessary support structures from the top down.
Exactly. The source makes it clear, based on your summary, that successful AI agile integration isn't just a technical rollout project. It's a significant organizational transformation that requires strong, informed leadership and a genuine collaborative partnership between technical management and the development teams. It's all about cultivating that synergy and shared understanding.
Okay, so looking ahead from this current state of integration and collaboration, the source takes a forward-looking perspective. It discusses future trends in the interplay between AI and agile development. Where does it see this heading? What's next?
Yes, it tries to project the current trajectory forward, highlighting a couple of areas that are likely to see significant growth and have a substantial impact on how agile is practiced.
What are those specific emerging trends mentioned in the source?
One key trend highlighted is described as increased automation. This points towards AI becoming capable of automating even more complex or higher-level tasks within the agile lifecycle than it does today.
More automation, like what kind of tasks?
Well, beyond just automating reporting or basic code generation, the source might be suggesting things like AI playing a more active role in test case generation and execution, maybe automated refactoring of code based on quality analysis, potentially even automating aspects of deployment pipelines or environment provisioning. It hints at a future where a larger percentage of the end-to-end development process has some level of AI assistance or automation.
What are the potential benefits and, I guess, challenges of that increased automation?
The obvious benefit is potentially massive gains in speed and efficiency, freeing up humans even more for truly complex and creative work. The challenges, however, are significant and echo the over-reliance pitfall we discussed. How do you maintain quality control? How do you ensure the AI isn't introducing subtle but serious errors? What happens to the skills of the workforce? And critically, how do you ensure the automation is aligned with the actual goals and values of the project and the organization, not just optimizing for speed at any cost?
So, the same balancing act, but amplified.
Exactly. The stakes get higher as the level of automation increases. Another key trend the source revisits, but frames as emerging, is AI ethics in development.
We discussed ethics as a skill, but why is it an emerging trend? Does that suggest its importance is growing?
Precisely. The source likely frames it this way because while awareness is growing now, the actual integration of ethical considerations systematically into the AI development lifecycle within enterprises is still relatively nascent. The trend is towards making ethical review, bias detection, fairness assessments, and transparency mechanisms standard, required parts of the process, not just afterthoughts or optional extras.
So, formalizing ethics within the workflow.
Yes, developing robust frameworks, tools, and governance structures to ensure AI is developed and deployed responsibly within agile contexts. The source suggests this will become increasingly critical for maintaining trust with customers, employees, and regulators, and for mitigating the significant risks associated with unethical or biased AI. Its importance is only set to grow.
Okay, so what are the overall implications of these trends, this push towards more automation and the increasing formalization of AI ethics for organizations striving to maintain or enhance their agility in the future? What's the takeaway based on the source's forward look?
The core implication seems to be that future enterprise agility will be inextricably linked to the ability to leverage AI effectively and responsibly. It won't just be about adopting agile frameworks, it will be about adopting AI-augmented agile frameworks.
Hmm.
Organizations that can successfully harness AI for increased automation while managing the risks and embed ethical practices deeply into their AI development will likely be the ones that can adapt fastest, deliver the most relevant and trustworthy products, and maintain a significant competitive edge. It suggests that the very definition of agility will continue to evolve, expanding to encompass this layer of AI-driven intelligence, speed, and ethical responsibility. Continuous improvement itself will become increasingly AI-augmented.
It paints a really clear picture of a future where agility and AI aren't just intersecting, they're almost completely intertwined, woven together.
For high-performing enterprises in the future, they might indeed become two sides of the same coin.
Wow. This has been an incredibly detailed journey through the material you brought us. We've really covered a lot of ground. We started with the Agile foundations, understanding why that iterative, feedback-driven approach creates fertile ground for AI.
Right, the data generation aspect.
Exactly. Then we explored how AI acts as this powerful catalyst, looking at practical applications like predictive forecasting for sprints and automated reporting tools.
Using ML and NLP.
Then we discussed how organizations are actually implementing this in the real world, the kinds of tools that help, but also the common pitfalls to watch out for those communication barriers and the dangers of over-reliance on automation.
And the strategies to mitigate them.
Yes. Then we delved deep into the crucial people factor, the evolving roles for developers needing skills like data literacy and ethical understanding, and the vital role of technical management in fostering collaboration through shared goals, continuous learning, and open communication.
Bridging that gap.
And finally, we peered into the future trends. The source highlights increased automation and the growing centrality of AI ethics in development.
All of it drawn directly from and elaborated upon the insights presented in your source material, AI and Agile, transforming enterprise agility.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, we always like to leave you, our listener, with a final provocative thought to mull over. Something that builds on the discussion, but maybe wasn't explicitly covered. Based on everything we've explored today, particularly the points about evolving human roles, shifting towards collaboration with AI, systems thinking, the rise of more automation, and the critical need for ethical grounding, here's something to consider. If AI continues to automate more and more aspects of the traditional Agile process, and human roles increasingly focus on higher-level strategy, creativity, ethical oversight, and collaborating with AI, how does that fundamentally change what it means to be Agile in the future? And perhaps more importantly, how do you personally and within your organization ensure that the uniquely human elements, things like creativity, genuine collaboration, critical thinking, empathy, remain absolutely central to driving real innovation and delivering true, lasting value even as the machines get smarter?
That's a deep one. How do we keep the humanity in Agile as AI becomes more integrated? It forces you to think about what agility really is at its core, beyond just the mechanics.
Exactly. Consider how this ongoing transformation impacts not just your team's processes or tools, but maybe your own skills, your own mindset, and your own approach to work in this evolving landscape. This has been The Deep Dive, exploring your source material on the critical intersection of AI and Agile transformation.
We hope this detailed exploration, based entirely on the source you provided, has given you valuable insights and perhaps a clearer perspective on navigating this exciting and sometimes challenging evolution.
Understanding this intersection, as the source makes clear, isn't just an academic exercise anymore. It feels increasingly crucial for thriving, for leading, and for simply keeping pace in today's rapidly changing technological world.
Keep thinking about that final question. Perhaps explore some of these concepts further in your own reading or discussions.
And most importantly, consider how you might start applying some of these insights, cautiously and thoughtfully, within your own context, whether you're a developer, a manager, or anywhere in between.
Thank you again for bringing us this fascinating and timely topic to explore.
It was great digging into it. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.